You are now tuned in to the Dads Who Lift podcast. Please give us a like, share, subscribe to the YouTube account. We are on www.dadswholiftofficial.com. All the podcast links are in there. We also have an apparel line. We're on IG as Dads Who Lift Official handle. We're on Facebook, Dads Who Lift Podcast. We also have a Dads Who Lift fitness group on Facebook that's Dads Who Lift Official. A group of 30,000 like-minded dads that are just trying to be their best selves and staying fit. If that's something you're into, please check it out. But we do this stuff for free, guys, so please give us a like, share, 5-star review. We really appreciate your support. You are now tuned into the Dads Who Live podcast. You have your host, Tyler Gata.
Co-host, Joel Staley.
And we have on, again, Jonathan Baumgartner.
What's up?
So, this podcast, actually, John brought up this topic of expectations. And expectations hit home with me. And so I thought it'd be a great topic. So that's what we're going to talk about. So expectations there's multiple different expectations, right? So expectations can be a good thing when you set expectations on yourself. God, what was that I just said, though? They are I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
It's a
premeditated something.
Resentment.
Premeditated resentment. So basically, expectations can be a good thing because they can push you forward. If you set expectations on yourself, they can push you forward to actually reach a goal, commit a goal, keep going until you hit a goal. They can also be a bad thing because there's no saying those expectations are going to be fulfilled, and that always leads to just disappointment. So the way I see it is like if I set expectations on myself, I'm safe because I can work hard and strive to hit those expectations, like make those expectations a reality, make them become a reality. I can achieve my goal, which is a good thing. It helps push me forward. And more than likely, or more than not, I do achieve those goals. I use it to be able to push forward. But where I get fucked is when I put expectations on other people. And that's what John and I have talked about this a lot with other people, just in friendships, relationships, even family, parenting with kids, with anything. Anytime I put an expectation on somebody else, an expectation on somebody else that's not me, that I'm setting them up for failure and I'm setting myself up for failure. And the thing that's the craziest thing about this topic or about expectations in general, and when you're talking about setting them on other people, is I guess the wildest part about it is like we see life through our reality, through our perception, through our feelings, right? So my life is shaped based on what I see, think, and feel, you know? But what I see, think, and feel is not what you see, think, and feel. And it's not what you see, think, and feel. It's not what anybody sees, thinks, or feels, right? Because it's my life. It's my perspective. And so my expectations are derived on my perspective based on what I see, think, and feel. And when I set those expectations on other people and they don't see, think, and feel the same things that I see, think, and feel, then that's where it really gets like muddied up and clustered up and can get really fucked up.
Yeah, they're good and they're bad. For yourself, there's more good out of having expectations for yourself. When you start setting expectations or holding the standard you hold yourself to the standard, right? You know, I expect myself to achieve at a certain level or perform at a certain level. The moment I start crossing that over and expecting that out of whether it's girlfriend, a friend, employee, I've already set them up to fail because in my mind I have certain things I want or outlined and expect, whether I didn't convey them or whether they didn't even realize it. The moment they don't meet those expectations, I've lost, you know, and we'll just dip into the relational part. You know, if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, wife, spouse, partner, whatever, you got to be completely transparent with your expectations. And I've learned this over the last year, being in a new relationship, that I get in my head more often than not. And I have these thoughts that she should be doing this, or I did this, so I expect her to do this in return. And we've had that conversation. I'm trying to get out of the habit of expecting anything from anybody in return because I did something.
Except for yourself.
Except for myself, yeah. I expect, and I guess that's probably the problem is we're, you know, people like us that are wanting to be high achievers or highly successful, highly motivated, we need those expectations out of ourselves. And that's kind of how we function every single day. But my girlfriend, she used this analogy with me. She's a rowboat and I'm a motorboat. You know, I might be, you know, once I get motivated and disciplined and I set out to do something, I commit 100%. I'm all in, balls to the wall. That's just how I operate. You know, red line to the max. Let's do it. She's not that way. Doesn't mean that she's not growing or that we're not moving in the same direction together. She just has to do it in her time and her steps and her pace for her to be successful. And that was a big aha for me. It's like, holy crap, my expectation is completely unfair because you don't operate, you don't think, you don't respond to the same pressures that I do, but I expect that out of you just because I'm able to do it. And then I carry that over, you know, as a parent, as a dad, you know, I expect a lot out of my son, but it's a fine line of having unreal expectations for him as a 4-year-old and what I expect in my mind of what I would like this picture perfect, you know, situation. So the expectations can be good for yourself, but when you start crossing it over, like you said, we're not the same. You don't think the same. You don't feel the same. You're not going to respond the same to certain pressures. So you're automatically setting someone up for failure.
That's like a big thing when you talk about parenting and expectations, because I grew up with unrealistic expectations put on me as a child. You know what I mean? And so there's been benefits to that. That's probably why I am such a high achiever and such a successor like I am today. Like I want to always win. I want to always move forward. But there's also been a lot of emotional shit that I've had to deal with just personally as I've gotten into an adult. You know, we've talked about it on the podcast before, but, you know, depression, anxiety, not feeling like I'm good enough, feeling like I'm always lacking, like I'm never enough, really. That's something that I've had to battle as I've come into an adult and actually learn to love myself from within, you know, to really feel like I am enough regardless, because you know, when you have unrealistic expectations put on you from a child, you're going to achieve, like you're going to win, you're going to push forward, but you're also going to, like, I always felt like I wasn't enough. You know what I mean? And so as an adult, I finally come to this place where I finally got past all that and moved past that. And that's taken years of fucking, you know, self-work, self-development, books, you know, looking inside myself, meditations. I've even been through therapy. I mean, all kinds of shit, you know, a lot of people have. To get to this point to where I'm at. And so that's a really fine line that I still struggle with for my son, because I still am a high achiever and I still have super high expectations on myself. I'm never happy with myself and what I've achieved. Even to this day, I still struggle with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's never enough. Like there's certain times where I'll be talking to buddies and they'll have to kind of like, I don't even see myself as successful. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times I don't even look at the things that I do on a daily basis that are, you know, positives or extraordinary or, you know, whatever you want to call it. Like, I don't even see it. A lot of times I'll focus on that one, like, damn, you know, I killed these 5 things today, but fuck, that 6th, man, I really should have got that one better, you know, like, and I'll be like, damn, you know, that's the one I need to work on, you know, which is not a bad thing, trying to be a perfectionist and trying to do the best that you can. But there's also a point to where it's like I said, all the buddies that I talk to in certain situations and explaining things, they're like, dude, shut the fuck up and look around you. Like, do you see everything that you've done? Like, do you know how many people that like their goal is to be where you're at now and you're 31 years old? You know what I mean? Like, that's their goal for 50 or 60, you know, like, it's just pretty crazy. But the whole point or the fine line in it when you're talking about children is, yeah, I want my son to excel. I want him to have high expectations of himself as well. But I also want him to feel like he is enough throughout the process, which is, man, a really fine line. Like that's a really hard line that I even struggle with today as an adult of how do I feel like I am enough, but yet I want to strive to continuously be more. Like it almost fuels me to feel like I'm not enough in some respects, just being honest. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but there's definitely some respects where I think everybody does probably, where it's like, man, I could be better there. That's why we want to achieve. That's why we want to move forward, you know? Yeah, Joel, what do you think about that?
Well, I was going to say, so it doesn't sound like all expectations are bad, just unrealistic expectations when they're placed on other people. Because I know running a team, like I have multiple...
And you have to, right?
You have to, because my name's on the business.
Yeah.
So they represent you. So if they're not checking in with clients or they're not getting on the phone call and helping people out and they're just doing the minimum standard, you have to have some sort of expectations. But when, like, let's just say a sales call, for example, if I've been doing it for 4 years now and I have a guy that's been doing it for 2 months, I can't expect him to just level up and have an automatic 4 years of experience under him. So, but at the same time, I have to have expectations of like, all right, well, this guy gave you a maybe, and you're like, okay, when you could have asked a couple questions, got him across that finish line. So you have to have some expectations, both with your team, with your kids, with your partner. But when it gets into the unrealistic, that's when it definitely gets like unhealthy for sure.
Right. And I would say, well, but where is that line though? Because like what's unrealistic?
Right.
Like you could say that my expectations of myself are unrealistic, and I'll say, fuck you, I'll show you. You know what I mean? So
what's unrealistic for you might be, or for someone else might be realistic for you though.
Something that I thought about when I was thinking about this topic this morning is like, I think a lot of the problem is that people don't, it's okay to have expectations. Like I think even in, say, per a relationship or a friendship or even a parenting, you have to have expectations. Everybody has expectations of something. But I think the problem is that people don't talk about those expectations and tell the other person what their expectations are. Like they're not shared. So like, you know, a lot of people go through relationships and each person has a set of expectations that are like unspoken. You never talk about it. So like this partner has these expectations, this partner has these expectations. Nobody ever fucking says anything about them. So they're like these invisible imaginary expectations that the other person's just supposed to know and feel. And then when the other person doesn't live up to one of them, then they're pissed off. You know? So where if you could actually sit down and be like, hey, listen, this is what I respect. This is what I expect out of this relationship. Like these are the
like minimum requirements.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is what, if we can't meet this, then I don't want this type deal. And not to say like, you know, that's where your expectations really probably do need to be very realistic, you know, and maybe even talking about them, you'd be like, you know, a lot of times I'll say something and it comes out of my mouth and I'm like, oh shit, that's probably not realistic, you know, like, so talking about them probably will even hone you in on getting your expectations more realistic, but actually to be able to talk about that with people and even like your children, like, hey buddy, I love you. I want you to do well in life. I want you to exceed. I want you to excel. These are my expectations of you. You know, these are my expectations of your chores, you know, how you're going to act as a kid, how you're going to act as a child. And this is why I'm doing this. This is why I expect these things is so that you can propel forward and be an exceptional man when you grow up, you know?
I agree. I have that same conversation with Brooks. Granted, he's only 4, but he wants to do all the fun stuff. He's getting bigger. And I'm like, well, I expect, you know, pick up your toys, take care of your stuff, you know, hang your coat up on the hook, simple little things that a 4-year-old should be doing. And if he doesn't do those, he gets punishment. Well, no, you're not going to bomb pop tonight after dinner, bro. You take your shoes away, you know? And so I honestly, I think you got to learn to become consciously aware of the expectations that you have. And if you're voicing them, I don't think they're bad. I don't think they can be bad because you get to decide what you want in your life, who you bring into your life. And I think using expectations to set like boundaries for yourself to make sure that you're propelling yourself where you want to go in life. I mean, they're bad if you don't talk about them. I think that's where they become the gray area, especially in interpersonal relationships with other humans.
Well, and your expectations may be unrealistic for somebody else, but they might not be unrealistic for another person. You know what I mean? Right. So talking about them, being clear about it, like, hey, this is what I expect out of this. And this other person's like, hey, I can't fulfill that. Cool. See you later.
Right. At least we're on the same page. Yeah. Don't waste time.
And the other one can't, somebody else has come along and they can fulfill it.
Yeah, I think the number one thing, if you're going to get what you want out of life, is you have to communicate it and you have to be clear on it. So 1 and 2. Because, if you like, say you're married and you expect, or you have a girlfriend, you expect to come home from work and have her be in lingerie and like dinner's already on the table. Right? Yeah, you house is clean.
Let me know where you find one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you never even communicate that, then how is she supposed to know? Right. So I think with anything in life, you got to get clear on what you want and you have to communicate it, because if you don't ask for it, you're just never going to get it. People can't read your mind.
Right. Here's a flip side of that. And we've talked about this more closely personally with relationships. We can set people up to fail by doing certain things. Like if someone is doing something consistently in the beginning of a relationship, I create an expectation that that's what you're bringing to the table all the time. And the moment you stop meeting that expectation that you created. I didn't set the bar. You texted me every morning. You texted me every night. You made sure that I felt important in your life. So you
have to reaffirm those expectations.
So yes.
Yeah.
If you create that expectation, hey, I'm a consistently good friend. You call me, I'll give you advice. I'll be there for you. I'll help you out whenever. You gotta continually affirm that in that person and build that.
Hey, I like when you do that.
Consistently. Or hey, well, how come you're not, following through with these things? I really valued that you did that for me, but now my expectation, you're falling short. Yeah, you're falling short, and you created this. So that's been also a trick we've talked about, and I won't kind of bring up the personal stuff, but hyping you up. Someone's going to hype you up. If that's it, if you're going to hype me up, you better hype me up forever going forward. If you stop hyping me up,
so what he's talking about is like a lot of times in relationships, people will do, say you got a fresh relationship, people will do certain things at the beginning of a relationship that you really love and you like. It really draws you to that person. It is the baseline and foundation for that relationship. And then as the relationship goes on, I'm not going to say things get stagnant, but maybe they do. Those things just kind of fall off through time. And so what he's talking about is, honestly, I feel like this is one of those things in my mind to where like if you seek the positive, you'll always have positive. And if you reaffirm those things like, hey, thank you for doing that. I really like it when you do that. I really like it when you tell me good night every night or whatever. You let it be known that you like those certain things. Usually people continue to do them. But at some point, if they don't, then that's an expectation that they set that you like, that you guys both have, that somebody's falling short on. Then that's the point where you have to come in and say, hey, what's going on here? Yeah.
You're falling short. You hyped me up, you built me up, and now I'm not getting that from you.
Right.
Things change in the relationship too. I mean, you might get comfortable. And again, for us, I preach many times, I try not to do something with setting an expectation in return. If I give you a nice gesture, I'm not expecting anything in return. And that's helped me a lot to not set those, precursors, if you will, of, oh, this person's going to always be there and do this for me.
If you're doing something, what John's talking about is like, if you're doing something to get something in return, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
So like in a relationship,
how genuine
per se, right?
Are you?
If you're going to do something nice for somebody, but you're only doing it to get that thank you, to fill your bucket, then you probably shouldn't do the thing, because you're really not even doing it because you give a fuck about them. You're doing it because you want yourself filled. You know what I mean? It's like a really selfish fucking thing. Like, hey, I'm going to give you this gift just because you're going to fucking love me and, tell me thank you and, give me a blowjob or something afterwards.
Well, people do it in relationships in the beginning. You say certain words or phrases and you get a reaction, and then it makes you feel good.
You should be doing that stuff because you want to, out of the kindness of your heart, because that's who you are and you like to give and you want to make that person feel good. And just by making that person feel good, it makes you feel good. You shouldn't have to receive anything back.
That's just being a positive.
What's that book, The Go-Giver?
Yeah, The Go-Giver.
The Go-Giver.
Yep.
That's a really good book on that topic.
I read that one and I passed that on, and that it creates the mindset of, so giving, there's an opposite that you have to have, which is receiving. You can't receive anything until you give something. They go hand in hand. If you receive something, I receive positive energy. I need to return that positive energy, otherwise I won't receive it anymore. So it's a circle. You have to give in order to receive, and when you receive, you have to give, but you're not doing it with the expectation. It's a natural cause and effect. It happens. But the moment you start doing it and seeking, I'm going to do this for this person, it's a self-centered motive. You're not doing it with pure intentions behind it. And it doesn't work that way. Just like with manifesting, you can't cheat it. You can't fake it. You have to truly, solely do
whatever
it for
you
the
put
right
out
intent.
into the universe, whatever you put out in the world always comes back. It's like when you talk about, paying it forward and buying someone's coffee behind you in a line of Starbucks or whatever, whatever. Or you talk about, hey, I think it was the last podcast you talked about, I started cold calling people, or I started DMing people. So I put all that effort out there. I really didn't get much from that, but then somehow these other leads came back to me.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking idea, basically, is whatever you put out is always going to come back.
Yep.
Man, I love it. So how do you go about setting realistic expectations then?
I'll let John jump on that one.
Oh, that's the trick. For me, it's consciously being aware if I'm expecting something in return for what I'm doing in everything. I mean, in any of my relationships, what is my motive? Why am I doing it? Am I doing it because I want to be gratified? I want them to recognize me, or am I doing it because it's the right thing to do? And I know by doing the right thing, the right things are going to happen in my life. The doorways are going to open. It's a conscious awareness of it. And it's not easy. I mean, you don't even probably realize that you do it. And we do it all day long. Just being consciously aware of it.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, you have a girlfriend. How would you what are your requirements? Just high level, these are my non-negotiables. When
we first started talking, I asked serious ass questions. I mean, she cried on the phone. She told me, I cried to my sister because you're asking questions I hadn't even thought about. I'm like, good. I want to know what I'm getting into. Here's my expectation. I want to grow and I need to grow. That's just how I operate at a high level in my life. If I feel stagnant, we're probably going to grow apart because I'm going to realize, hey, I've stopped. And I'm going to reevaluate my life and figure out how to keep moving forward. And so the rowboat analogy came into play. Hey, you're moving at motorboat speed. That's how you operate. You've been doing this for years. I'm not there. I'm at a rowboat, baby steps. So the expectation, I set it very early. Hey, this is what I expect. But I had to come back and rehash it. Hey, are you still moving ahead? Are you still doing these things? I can't do them for you. I can't make you do it. But I've said, if I'm growing and you're stagnant, guess what's going to happen? It's not that I don't care about you. It's not that I don't, have strong feelings towards you. We're going to grow apart just because of the direction I'm headed, in the direction that either you're not headed or if you're just stagnant.
Yeah, if you have a partner and you have your foot on the gas and they always have their foot on the brake, you're not going to go anywhere.
I want to say something that's really important here, man. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. You're either moving forward or backwards. Anytime you stop, you're moving backwards. You're not moving forward anymore. And so in a relationship, a friendship, the 5 people you surround yourself with, you are the sum of the people you keep in your life. Anything. If you're moving forward and you're constantly having to stop for the person, I know you've had this talk with Caitlin, that you're not going to stop.
Right.
You know what I mean? It really is, and it really has to be, whether this sounds fucked up or not, or selfish or not, for somebody that's a self-motivating, a growth-minded person that wants to move forward and be the best version of themselves. You have to keep doing you, and people either have to keep up or they don't. Yep. But that's their choice and their decision, and they have to put in that effort. You can't fucking look back and say, hey, where you at? You know what I mean? I've had so many relationships where I'm moving forward and I'm constantly stopping and looking behind me and going, hey, come on, hurry up. You know what I mean? I'm running here. You're just walking. Hurry up. Let's go. Come on. And every time I stop and I say, hey, hurry up, let's go, I'm stopping my progress.
Yeah. And
one of those things that I said, when I get into another serious relationship, whenever that time comes, I will never stop. I will never look back. Either you're there with me or it's just not going to work out, because I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop propelling forward. I'm not going to stop my growth. I'm not going to stop my future that feels good for me and my life to bring somebody else up. You know what I mean? If somebody's going to be in my life and stay with me, they're going to have to make that effort to do so. So
that's an expectation. And as long as you vocalize that from the beginning, I don't see there's
that's
anything
also, that's
wrong
not
with
only an expectation that's honestly more of an expectation that you have on yourself.
Hands down. Yeah.
Because I'm not saying that they have to do that. I'm just saying that I'm not going to stick around if they don't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that somebody's bad if they don't. That's not what I'm saying. People are different. It doesn't mean that I'm a great person and she's a shitty person. It's not what it means. It just means that we're not aligned in our growth and moving forward. Yeah,
I know you were dating someone quite a while ago, and you asked, all right, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And she's like, just chill on the beach and drink a beer. And you're like, oh, fuck, that's not what I wanted to hear.
Thanks for being honest.
That's fun for 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
That's a vacation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that would get old real quick.
That's a vacation.
Yeah. I got to have my structure, man. I got to keep moving. Hopefully that we'll get to a time to where I'm just investing and I can travel and have more of a leisure life, but I'll never stop propelling forward. I'll always have to have a schedule. I'll always have to move forward. But when you ask that question, how do you not set unrealistic expectations, right? For me, I guess you kind of said it in a relationship standpoint, I guess, is the way I took it. But for me, I think what it comes down to, like, I have unrealistic expectations compared to most people. And I'm going to have unrealistic expectations. And I want to have unrealistic expectations on myself and in my life. And I'm cool with that. Like, that's how you get to be places that nobody else goes. You know what I mean? Like, the billionaire he had fucking unrealistic expectations. If you think he had normal expectations and became a billionaire, you're fucking insane. You know, like, he had unrealistic expectations. So for me, it's kind of a loaded question, because I guess to answer that, if we're talking relationships or friendships, is I'm going to surround myself with people that have unrealistic expectations. You know? Now, as far as like inside of a relationship, I think really what it comes down to is just slowing down, not jumping to conclusions, and actually taking the time to see a situation for what it is. Like, there may be something that happens and you know, you had this expectation that the person was going to handle it this way and they didn't handle it that way. It's really easy to jump to a conclusion and fucking fly off the handle or end the relationship or whatever it may be. It's really easy in that moment when emotions are involved. You're upset, you're mad, whatever it may be. But what I've learned is that in those situations, a lot of times doing nothing and saying nothing is stronger and more powerful than acting or speaking. And so I'll take my time to sit on that situation and actually evaluate it and be able to calm down and take the time to look at that situation from all different angles and truly evaluate the situation. And once I can do that from a calm and collected standpoint, if it's still something that violated a expectation of mine that's non-negotiable, then that's a time to separate from that scenario, relationship, friendship, whatever it may be. But a lot of times people, especially with high expectations, it's easy to, you know, jump to conclusions, overreact, you know? So
we've talked about it before, and it's very easy to respond to an expectation that someone's failed you or let you down. Your emotions, you skyrocket immediately. Man, I'm frustrated, pissed off. Like, why didn't they do this? And I've actually, you know, talked to Tyler about this before. I've texted out response texts. I mean, I'm letting them have it. I'm getting all my shit out in my text message, but I don't send it. And then I'll wait and I'll go back and read it in like 10 minutes. I'm like, man, I'm a jackass. I definitely was mad. Definitely was frustrated.
Yeah, that's the worst.
And I can read it in the language of how I'm communicating. I'm like, all right, that's not positive. That's not leading by example. So I'll delete everything and then sit on it. Think about it. You know, Caitlin will ask me, he's like, oh, you're just going to be quiet right now? I'm like, I'm just thinking. I'm just processing. I don't have to respond. Don't expect me to.
Women hate that.
They hate it. Don't expect me, you know, to. And that's an expectation. She asked me a question and I don't answer her right away. And it's nothing, you know, negative. It's she's just.
So you're just not going to say anything?
So you're just not going to say anything? I'm like, no, I'm thinking about it. I need a process because I know myself. If I say something with the emotions I'm feeling right now, I'm going to be a dude and I'm going to probably put my foot in my mouth and I'm going to regret it later. So good habit is, yeah, if someone fails your expectation, think about it. You can type or write a response or an email. Don't send it. Think about it. Really think about it. And that technique will help you start becoming more conscious of how often we set expectations. And honestly, we're failing ourselves because we set that expectation from the beginning. If we never set that and we do it with pure intentions, you're not going to get hurt. You're not going to get let down. And then when you do receive it back, it's like, oh, hell yeah. You know, that's just the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, you're just constantly disappointed when you set the unrealistic expectations all the time.
I got a question. What's the difference, say, in a relationship per se, between expectations and boundaries?
Ooh. Boundaries, I'd say, are your non-negotiables. I have certain boundaries that they're just...
Boundaries are still expectations in a form, though, right?
Yeah, I would say they're expectations in a form, but with unrealistic I guess that's the difference.
Like, what do you mean boundaries? I guess I'd have to hear an example.
A boundary. You know what a boundary is.
Yeah, what's one boundary that you have with your family, with your wife, daughter, versus like outside people, maybe relatives or in-laws?
When I hear boundaries, I hear like stay away from that. Where when I hear expectations, I feel like you got to meet that. So I guess
that's good perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boundaries is like, all right, we don't go there no matter what.
Boundaries could be to protect you.
Yeah.
You know, put in place. I have boundaries for my son to protect him, to help him and mold him as he's growing to hopefully have high expectations for themselves. But boundaries for me, they're non-negotiables. Like I have certain boundaries. I believe in a core family, in-laws, outside relatives should not constantly be in someone's ear feeding into that relationship. I just don't believe in that. I believe that you need to work with your spouse, partner, whatever. You can have conversations about the in-laws, and it goes back to an old mentor just taught me this little snip rule. If you're not 100% for me or for us, then I don't need you. If you're not all in, if you're not 100% Tyler Gate, 100% Joel Staley, then I don't need you.
There's no fuck maybes.
Yeah,
fuck yes.
It's my life. I'm, navigating this. I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, and my life might not be perfect, but you don't get to say how I run my life or what I do in my life. So the boundary would be, hey, thanks for your advice. And that's where it goes. It's advice. I'll evaluate it once it gets to that.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but I think that's the major key as far as relationships go to probably healthy expectations and unhealthy expectations would be boundaries. So I would say that a healthy expectation would be like a boundary. You know what I mean? Or a boundary you set in your relationship is the non-negotiable boundary. Like, hey, listen, if you cross this line, then that's it for me. This is a boundary that I'm non-negotiable on this expectation. I expect this not to happen, or I expect this to happen in our relationship. And if you cross that, then it's done. That's a non-negotiable, right? So that to me would be more like a boundary. But I agree with you. Expectation is more like something that, hey, you need to meet this.
High standards.
So that would be where it's saying anytime you set an expectation for somebody that they don't set for themselves, you're setting yourself up for failure.
I would say a boundary is like you're playing defense and an expectation is like offense. So a boundary might be like, all right, obviously you're not going to go out to dinner with another guy. That's an obvious boundary.
Yeah.
If you go there, like you said, fuck this.
Yeah.
An expectation is more like, all right, well, I expect that we find this amount of time each week to spend time with each other, or that I don't know, that you're not going to call me this name or act like that. So it's more of like expectation is how you build things up, and boundaries is like how you almost protect yourself or protect something.
Or protect the relationship.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. I like it.
Yeah, I like that a lot better.
It's a good question, though.
Yeah.
You need both, I feel like.
You do.
You definitely need both.
You need
100%.
both. I think you can set expectations for your partner that they should have for themselves, even if they don't have them expectations. Hey, you should be eating healthy. You should be getting up. It is tough, but those are real expectations. Like, I'm a healthy guy, I want a healthy partner, or hey, I'm about growth or whatever, I want that same expectation from my partner. And I think it's okay to have those. They're not unrealistic. I'm not saying you got to go out and be, read 20 books, in a month. That's not what I'm saying, but going the same direction, those are expectations that I have that, might seem unreal, but we know that people make excuses for themselves. So I think setting up those expectations may help motivate your partner. As men, we need to lead our families and be that person. So
I feel like a lot of times it causes resentment, though, if they're just not going to do it. So like, I want the ice cream. I don't want to eat chicken.
You can't force them. You can't force them.
Yeah, so I think it keeps coming back to it's a thin line, and you got to find out what your non-negotiables are, and definitely communicate them.
What about expectations that you set on yourself rubbing off on other people or people?
See, that's how I think you should lead.
Yeah. See,
that's how you should lead.
That's what I'm thinking in my mind is like, instead of actually telling somebody, I guess there's not a bad thing in communicating. Hey, this is what I expect out of a relationship. If we're going to do this, this is what I want. But I think it's more powerful. I think it's a good thing to communicate and at least say it like once so it's out there, like it was spoken about. But I think on a day-to-day basis, you're obviously not going to have that conversation about a relationship or expectations daily. Hey, so honey, we woke up and today this is what I expect. We talked about it, but this is what I expect today. I think more so it comes through how you live your life. And if you have high expectations of yourself, and then you actually live up to those expectations every day, that's going to rub off on anybody else. Like I've got, my fitness coach per se, he's a single guy, and I've heard him say multiple times, like, guys will be in the gym, we'll be working out with a group of people, and, they'll look at the hot girl in the gym and be like, oh my God, you see the ass on her, or, you see how hot she is or whatever. I've heard him say multiple times, like, dude, I don't care. Like, as long as she's got a pretty face and a great personality, doesn't matter, because that's how I live my life. I'm so fitness driven. I'm a fitness coach that's going to rub off on anybody I'm with regardless. And I feel like that goes hand in hand with anything. Like if I am to a T this person that I expect out of other people, and I live that on a daily basis, the closest people around me are going to gravitate towards that, pick up pieces of that, and start living that in their life as well. And especially if you're an alpha male leader and not a little beta bitch that lets your woman walk all over you, that's your job, is to fucking lead the relationship and lead your family.
I agree.
Beta bitches everywhere.
Beta bitches.
Dude, there's a lot of beta bitches out there.
Dude, it's nuts, man. That's a whole
You can't set an
topic,
expectation for somebody else and not fulfill it. I mean, if you're going around, what kind of person is that? Oh, I expect you to do this, but you're not fulfilling that yourself. You got no credibility, no ground to stand on. I wouldn't, if someone expected me to do something, but they're not doing it themselves, you're not going to follow it. You're not going to do it. You're not going to meet that expectation. So yeah, every day, I mean, waking up, doing my routine, being healthy, growing, those are my expectations, and they are going to rub off on your partner regardless, or you're going to grow apart. Like, if they don't choose to do those things.
They either will or they won't, but if they don't, then you're not going to be with them.
Yeah, I feel like there's almost has to be consequences when expectations aren't met. Or let's take the positive of that. Not even consequences if they aren't met, but more like commissions or rewards or positive stuff that happens when they are met.
Yeah, 100%. That's like the deal where you say, hey, I really love when you do that.
Yeah.
Like
affirm.
You have to reaffirm the things that you like so that people know. And trust me, if someone tells me that they like something that I'm doing, I continue to do it.
Right.
Like, it feels good. I want to be praised, Oh, you like that I do that? Sweet. I'll keep doing it, And a lot of times, you'll start doing it without even thinking about doing it. But if you're not ever giving positive affirmations in a relationship, friendship, or even like with my son, hey, buddy, thank you so much. He came home from school the other day, and before he got on his Xbox, without me having to yell at him, he unloaded the dishes and got the dog's food and water, So I go in his room like, hey, man, thank you very much for doing your chores before you got on the Xbox. I really appreciate that.
Right.
Like, I didn't have to fucking yell at you and take your Xbox and ground you today. Like, tomorrow might be a different story, but thank you today. I appreciate it. And if you reaffirm those positive things and give affirmations on those positive things, then the more those positive things are going to come back to you.
Yeah, I think that's more positive, and you're going to yield better results when you reaffirm someone meeting expectations rather than like nag them or hound them when they don't.
Mm-hmm. Hands down, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't nag them.
But what I was saying, there is like a fine line. There's a very fine line because, and I think it's like, I'm thinking like around in circles in my head here, but there's certain people that are going to be on your same wavelength and there's certain people that aren't. You know what I mean? And so if I have an expectation of somebody to act a certain way, or say I'm talking to this, female, and I have an expectation that she's going to do this and she doesn't live up to that expectation, then I'm upset and I kind of fuck myself. I set myself up for failure because I gave her that expectation when, just because that's my expectation or something that I normally would do doesn't mean that that's her expectation of something that she would normally do. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that she necessarily did anything wrong. It just means that her expectations are different than my expectations. Her expectations of herself are different than my expectations of myself, which come through into a relationship. So I'm looking at it going, man, I would have done that. Why didn't you do that? Well, that's because she's not me. It doesn't, just because I would have done it doesn't mean that she's going to do it. And that's where I can set myself up for failure. Now, this is where the fine line comes in, because then it's one of those deals to where if that happens multiple times and that's something that really bothers you, then that's something that you have to bring up and say, hey, this is how I do things. Like, it kind of bothers me that you don't do things that way. And if it's something that you can't get past, then like I said, people just have different expectations of themselves. People have different moral compasses, different standards, different things all the way around. And some people just aren't meant to be. And that's where it's like, all right, if we can't come together through the way that we live our lives or the way that we communicate or the things that we expect from ourselves and from this relationship, then maybe we should part ways.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
It's a fine line.
What's going on with you, John? Let's catch up. We got some time here.
Oh,
how's you? You said you were getting into doing some coaching last time we talked.
I just want to share my story. I want to be able to just put it out there. I've got an interesting story, to say the least, of a lot of things. The most current thing is 31 years old, hernia surgery.
What?
Totally derailed my life. And I mean, wintertime for us in the season.
He's a little guy now.
I'm a little guy now. Down to 160. Lean, got a six-pack, ripped. I don't like being ripped. I want to be 178.
Yeah, he walked into the office yesterday, and today you look. I mean, you got a sweatshirt on, but yesterday you had like a tight shirt,
my compression shirt on.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
I had
Those
work-
never compliment.
Those never. I mean, it sucks.
Kaylee,
everything
my office
in.
manager's like, did John get sick? He's lost a lot of weight. I'm like, well, yeah, hernia
It's
surgery.
very depressing.
surgery.
Those
So
compression shirts, man, they just show all the worst and they like hide all the good. That's the worst. Like your arms look small and then your guts kind of hanging out.
it's all.
Weird.
I mean, I'm excited because I get a. So last year I wanted to bulk. Never really put on a lot of weight, and I put on 30 pounds. You know, and I got to a comfortable weight, and I felt physically like I was in my prime. Now I'm like, oh man, I'm 20 pounds light. I don't feel the same. So I get to start my journey again, and I'm a little hesitant. I had the surgery January 6th, and he cleared me just a week and a half ago. So I'm kind of easing back into it. I'm doing like HIIT training, not really trying to go gung. I want to, but I'm 31 years old, the hernia, it made me start evaluating my life.
How'd you get it?
Ego lifting.
Honestly, it could be a compilation of everything. Ego lifting, being in the gym. I mean, I wanted to bench 300 pounds. Never got there, but I was able to put up 290. And probably not smart to be doing that at home by yourself without a spotter or assist bands. But there was times, even at work.
Listen, man,
just being
sometimes shit just
gung-ho.
happens. I mean, a lot
It
of guys
happens.
get
It's
hernia.
compiled. Every guy
Our line of
that
work
I've
is
talked
not
about
easy
it.
either.
Yeah. So I'm restarting a personal journey to just fitness again, and I love fitness. So back in the gym, back up at 4:15 every day. This time of year is usually where I restart my schedule, my routine. Wintertime is inconsistent. We're just
Doing snow removal.
We don't have,
There is no schedule. It's horrible.
Mother Nature dictates all of that. So it's an excuse because I could make time to work out, but there's a lot of variables that factor into that. And I stopped working out probably a month. I knew that, I had a hernia long before I went and got the surgery. There was, a little bulge and stuff. And I'm like, all right, something's going on. So 3 months.
Thought it was AIDS at first.
Could have been. No lesion. So I'm like, let's go figure this out. So I'm starting the health journey. Going to put on, my goal is I'm at 160 now. I want to get back up to 178, 180, but I'm going to do it slow. I'm not going to bulk fast and put on 30 pounds in 2 months. I just figure strength, real conditioning. I've also started doing yoga just because I feel like my stabilizers, my core, I need to really build that as I'm putting on lean muscle, just so that way I don't get into a position where I'm compromising my body.
So who's your market going to be? Who are you going to help?
My market's going to be, I'm not going for the health people. I mean, will attract that. My goal is not to help people. It's just going to be people who want to bridge the gap from where they're at to where they think they could be. That's where I feel like I've been stuck for a while, and I'm just starting to bridge the gap. I don't have all the answers. I'm connected with guys like you guys and a few other people who are around that tier that I want to get to. So I'm trying.
Fucking answers.
I'm trying to stay connected. And like you talked about, the 5 people you hang around, if you're not picking up habits from them, then you probably aren't doing yourself any justice. I'm trying to connect the dots. So if I can help someone, I come from Benson, North Omaha. I resonate with a lot of people who grow up in poverty area, who've never really had coaching, who've never really had a mentor, no one who's really poured into them and invested in saying, hey, man, your brain is the most powerful thing. Once you change your mindset, you can achieve anything you want. That's going to be the target, just helping people shift their mindset from being, I'm stuck, I have nowhere to go, I can't figure this out, to let's unstuck yourself, let's make a game plan, and let's get to where you want to go. So
when I start my coaching program, John's going to be a big part. We haven't really figured out all the details yet, but at some aspect, he's going to definitely be a big part of the program. So
my thought was, because he's going to create a mega platform. I feel like I need to be ready to be a part of that platform. Right now, I mean, I have insight. I love reading, soaking up information. But if I really want to do this, I got to be like, hey, man, you got a platform? Let's connect. Plug me in. I can fit into your system. I can
he'll probably
help
be doing
you.
a lot of operations management stuff, but then he'll be doing a lot of like mindset coaching and stuff with the group to start off. And then we'll just kind of see how it goes, man. I mean, it's all new, It's all just a big I mean,
It's your
it's
passion.
structured at this point. You know, it's pretty well put together, but I haven't launched it yet. So as you know, when you first launched your program, it evolved to where it is now through time. You know what I mean? I'm sure if you were to look at your program right when it came out to where it is now, it wouldn't even look the same.
Right.
You know, so we'll see how it goes. But we have great concepts put together that I know are going to work, and we have great people on our team, including you, John, a lot of other great guys, Caleb Moran, my coach, to where I know it's going to work out. So he's more so just getting ready to kind of jump on that team, and we'll see where it goes from there, man.
Nice.
You know,
It's exciting.
A lot of getting back to the normal of waking up at 4:15, dragging balls right now. Like, I was still getting up, trying to stay consistent, but 4:15 is early for me right
you
now.
were still usually up at like 5:30, weren't you? Most
Yeah, I was
mornings?
getting up. So I've been doing the mindset stuff since I couldn't lift. I'm like, hey man, I downloaded a couple things, and I'm really shifting my focus. We talked about before, like I went down a rabbit hole with all the social media, politics, bull crap. I don't want people to think of me in that light at all. I went back and deleted all that. If you go on my Facebook, you're going to find positivity every day. That's my intention every day.
That's crazy because there's been so many things that I've wanted to post, even to this day, like even stories or memes, not even only politics, but there's a lot of shit that I want to post. And the ultimate driving factor is always, is this positive?
Yep.
And if it's not positive and adding positivity, I always delete it. I never
Get
post
rid of it. Yep.
Yeah, I never post
Firm
it.
believer in that.
Even if it's
so-
something that's true, you know, like something that might be like negative, but it's fucking true. I'm like, dude, does this add positivity? Nope, I'm not doing it.
Get in the habit. So I've started unfollowing people, unfriending people, and I still have a bad habit. Someone will be on a rant about something.
I just don't even look. I don't even give
and
a fuck.
I might comment, and then they respond, and I might comment back, and I'm like, here I go again. I just need to remove this person off my Facebook because,
Yeah.
you know, and I like to have conversations and you know, debates, not an argument. You know, a lot of people just want to argue. It's
The
like,
problem is, though, is that you need to have those debates and conversations in person, because when people are on the fucking computer on social media, like everybody's a keyboard warrior.
green
It's
lights.
just completely different.
Before I forget the thought, I just finished that book.
Yeah.
And he talked about in there, he freaking wrestled an African dude in Bush, Africa. And his whole thought was, he was talking to the guy. He won the fight, and afterwards, he was talking to like his translator, and he was trying to understand. The guy was in an argument with another guy about wrestling or something, and Matthew McConaughey was like, "Well, I was right," and the guy who he was defending got mad at him, and I'm probably messing it all up, but the point was, they were not in an argument to win. They were in an argument or a debate to understand the other person. I think there's so much more value in that. Like, I don't want to argue with you. I'm going to ask questions. And so I tell Caitlin all the time, hey, I know you don't like it, but if I'm asking you questions in the middle of a conversation, or if you ask me a question and I ask you 3 questions, because I really want to understand where you're coming from, why you're thinking that way, what created that thought. That's just how I work. I love and I want to know the psychology in your brain. So I don't want to be in an argument. And that goes for the mindset coaching. I'm not here to debate anybody. I want to understand you. So let's have a conversation and shift away from arguing to understanding.
Did you see fucking Larry Hagner, I believe, just had Matthew McConaughey on his podcast?
No way.
Yeah, and he's been on our podcast.
Yeah.
That's
He's had
crazy.
he's had Andy Frisell on. He's had a lot of
Yeah,
people
we need
on.
to get some more connections rolling here. But everybody knows Matthew McConaughey. Love to have him on the podcast. All right. All right.
That was a good book. Have you?
I'm halfway through.
That
Yeah,
was
it's
a good book.
It's a good book.
Green
Very
lights, synchronicities, things just kind of.
He has a wild
He
life,
does.
man. It's fucking insane. Like, you wouldn't think. I guess Matthew McConaughey, he looks a little wily. You could definitely be like, all right, he's probably been through some shit, but he had a fucking wild life, man.
The Outback where he's down in Australia with being a trade student.
Yep,
I just laughed so hard at that
yep.
story. I mean, I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Go get the book. It's a great book.
It is.
Green light.
All right. All right. Well, I'm going to close this up. We can do some last final thoughts. John, what's your final thoughts on expectations, man?
I think they're good as long as you communicate. I don't think that they're bad. I think that as long as you communicate with people or your partner, you know, your child, like having a conversation with your son, daughter, whoever it is, if you have expectations, as long as you're communicating, you're clear about them, be conscious of them, don't set people up with unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
We need them. I mean, that's how we grow and monitor ourselves in our life. So,
Yeah, they're healthy. Lets you know who belongs in your circle, who doesn't belong in your circle. But at the same time, you can't place the same level of expectations on others that you do on yourself.
Yeah. So kind of to go with that, I guess I'll wrap up with expectations on yourself are good, can be good. Expectations on yourself can push you forward, can push you in the right direction, can help you attain or achieve unrealistic things in your life that may be unrealistic from a lot of people, but not unrealistic to you. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to have unrealistic expectations as long as they're realistic to you. Like nobody else can tell you what your expectations are and if they're realistic to you in your life or not. If it's something that you see as attainable, or you know that somebody else did it, you know that you can do it. Either way, you believe in yourself that, hey, I can fucking do this. Then that's a good expectation for you to have of yourself. And I think expectations of yourself should always be high. Like I said, it's a fine line that I still struggle with daily to love myself and be enough, but always still strive for more. And honestly, I think that that's a line that I will deal with for the rest of my life. And I think that anybody that has high expectations of themselves will probably also deal with for the rest of their lives, because there is no, how do I say it? There is no, I'm always going to strive to want more and be more out of myself. There's no finish line for me. And I think that that's a good thing, but it's also a dangerous thing. You have to be careful. It's okay to want more and to strive for more and go after more, but you also have to make sure that you are also in line with your heart and soul inside your body, and that you know that you love yourself no matter what, and that you are enough deep down no matter what for yourself. And I think the key in that is I love myself. I'm enough for myself. But I'm honoring myself by being the best that I can possibly be. I'm honoring myself by striving for more every single day and having these high-ass expectations. I still love me, but I want the most out of me, which in return is actually loving me. That's pretty wild. So I like that. Expectations on others, man, it can be tough. I think it's better to have boundaries. I think it's better to have boundaries than expectations on other people. If you're going to have expectations on other people, I would say just make sure to communicate those expectations and make sure that they're known. Like, don't just think that other people can read your fucking mind. You know, you set these high ass expectations on somebody else and they know nothing about it. It's just going to lead to disappointment for you and them. You know what I mean? So as long as you can communicate that stuff, and also live up to those expectations yourself through your daily actions in your life. Like, not only do I ask this of you, or not only do I want this of you, but I'm also going to give this back to you, and I'm going to live this every single day, and I'm going to show you that this is the man that I am, and this is why this is the type of person that I am, and this is the type of people that I want in my life in return. You know what I mean? As long as you express that and you show it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So expectations can be very powerful. They can be a great key in your life for success and moving forward. But they're just like everything, man, just like balance. It's always a super fine line. So I think you just have to be cognizant of it and watch it carefully and know what you're doing moving forward.
Just a quick thought. What's an antonym, or what would the opposite of an expectation be for you? Like, what was one word?
The opposite of an expectation? Shit, I don't know, dude. You got me with a brain buster.
Complacency, for me, was what comes to mind as I'm thinking about it. If I don't have expectations for myself, then I feel like you're settling, or you've gotten comfortable to a point where you're complacent, and that is a disease of the mind. I mean, complacency is dangerous. I mean, you will fool yourself in a heartbeat being in that mindset. So I think having expectations is almost a must.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, I really just came up with this on this podcast, but that's why I was saying that you still love yourself. You know, you're enough for yourself inside. You're full inside through, like, for me, it'd be through me and my higher power. You know what I mean? Like, I'm full of myself. I'm full of my God. I'm full of my love. But I expect more out of myself daily, and I don't expect more out of myself because I don't feel that I'm enough. I expect more out of myself because I'm honoring my possibilities. I'm honoring what I have to offer. You know what I mean? Like I'm honoring. I'm living up to my potential. I'm honoring my potential to be the best that I can be on a daily basis and move forward. And I want to be, there's a drive there to be the best that I can be on a daily basis moving forward. And that fuels that expectation.
Preach.
Yep.
Green light.
Yep.
Green light. All right.
Green light.
All right. This has been the Dads Who Live podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We do this stuff for free. We don't run ads, any of that shit. So please give us a like, share, 5-star review. We want to grow organically, guys. So just please tell a friend. If you can tell one friend, they tell a friend. That's how we get this thing moving. Like, share, 5-star review, subscribe on YouTube. We really appreciate your support. All the podcast is on all the formats: YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. All the podcast formats are on our website, www.dadswholiftofficial.com. We also have apparel, hats, shirts, sweatshirts, swag on the website as well, so check that out. We're on Instagram as Dads Who Lift Official handle. We're on Facebook as Dads Who Lift Podcast. And we also have a group of like 45,000 like-minded dads. They're just trying to be their best selves and stay fit at the same time, best fathers they can be. It's a fun group too. They give each other a lot of shit and fuck around a lot in the group. So it's a really good time. There's a lot of support and useful knowledge there as well. So that is a Facebook group, and that is called Dads Who Lift Official. Give us check us out, guys. Give us a like, share, 5-star review. We really appreciate your support, and set some good expectations for yourself today. Take care.
Than alive. I ain't bigger than alive. Than alive. Yeah. I ain't bigger than alive. Bigger than alive.